and I'll hand over to Sheila and team as we get started.
All right. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you're joining us. Welcome to the CentralNotice Requester Training. My name is Sheila. I'm the CentralNotice Support Specialist, and we are excited to have you here today. This training is a milestone, and it's a first of its kind since the launch of CentralNotice. As you know, CentralNotice plays a very important role in the Wikimedia movement as it helps communities share important messages. It encourages participation in global campaigns. It supports initiatives across the movement. Aside from that, we also know that over the years, navigating through the request process has not always been easy. And that is why we are here today, to make sure that you have the knowledge and the confidence to use CentralNotice effectively. So over the following sessions, you'll learn, you'll get to engage, and you'll gain some practical insights into making your campaign banners successful. Whether you're new to CentralNotice or you have made requests before, this training will help you better understand the process. You'll understand the newly updated guidelines and how to create clear campaigns with little to no errors. I'll be hosting this session alongside two of our incredible CentralNotice admins, Ciell and Martin, as well as Alex, our lead strategist. They have been very instrumental in shaping how CentralNotice works today, and I'm very grateful that we could get to do this together. Please feel free to add in your questions in the comment section. And if you need to ask for any clarifications, indicate that in the comment section as well. We are here to learn, so please feel free to engage. Let's move on to the first slide.
Those who don't speak right now, please switch off their microphone. Thank you.
No. Now, let's talk about what you can expect to learn from today's training. By the end of this session, you'll understand what CentralNotice is and why it matters. You'll also learn how to request for banners the right way by going through the request process step by step. You'll understand what makes a good banner and what to avoid by learning key policies and guidelines. You will see why community communication and consensus is very important, how to collaborate with the admins and other community members when making requests. You'll also find out where to get help so that you can always know where to go when you need support. Last but not least, you'll learn the best practices surrounding banners. So by covering these topics, we want to make sure you leave this training feeling very confident and prepared to make CentralNotice requests that are smooth and aligned with the newly updated guidelines. Next slide, please. So before we can start, in the comments section, I'd like for you to describe a banner that you recently saw or in the past, name the banner and state what it is that you liked about the banner. What caught your attention about it? Was it a landing page? Was it its beautiful design? Was it the beautiful colors? Were you intrigued by the campaign message? Please let us know in the comment section as I hand it over to Ciell to take us through the next section.
Thanks, Sheila.
I'm waiting for those comments. We want to see what banners I'll be looking at.
Me too.
Yes.
So Wiki Loves Folklore is suggested in chat. The color caught my eye. It's nice.
Nice, nice.
Any more recent banners?
Yeah.
Any more recent banners you've seen, you've noticed? I think currently we have 12 active. Women's Month. Yes.
Wiki loves
Yes.
monuments.
And Africa.
Wiki loves Africa. So Wiki loves yeah. Wiki loves
Lots of
art.
Wikimania
and lots of
scholarships.
Wiki
Yeah.
loves.
Wikimania program submissions. That's right, the most recent one.
The Women's Month, yeah, this year was creative. Yeah, it was very nice. Yeah, for sure. Arts and Fen, yeah. All right. I think I can hand it over to you, Ciell. Over to
Yes.
you.
Well, yeah, thank you. Well, yes. My slides. Oh, so central notice. You might have noticed that banner in the top of Wikipedia pages that calls your attention to projects. In chat, we mentioned photography competitions and also the current call for program proposals for Wikimania. The central notice is a perfect tool to call the attention of all the people across the Wikiverse, all projects, all languages. It's a notice that is activated from the Meta project and coordinated globally from there to engage and educate and encourage participation, mainly from everyone that sees the banners. Next slide, please. So the central notice interface, as I mentioned, this is a screenshot from the page on Meta. And we have translations available, but they're not always completely up to date. We'd love more translations. Next slide. And that page, the header in that page has 6 sections: the banner request, the campaign calendar, the usage guidelines, frequent questions, the admin interface, and interface documentation. We will speak about most of them in today's presentation, and we'll explain to you how they work and how you can navigate them. Next slide, please. So the first thing, or the most important one, maybe is the request page, because sometimes that can be tricky. But in the top of that request page is a 9-step plan, and the first 6 steps are the most important for you as a requestee. The most important one is number 1, because we recently updated the usage guidelines for central notice. So please review that before you get to step number 2, creating the request. And I will show you steps 2 to 4 in a live session in this presentation today. Next slide. The central notice page on Meta also lists all these different pages where you can find help, where you can find more information, where you can contact people. So make sure you visit the Meta page and review those pages. Next slide. So there are a lot of reasons why you could request central notice banners. You want to raise awareness for something that is happening. For instance, a confirmation vote for the stewards that we have globally on all projects. Maybe you want to drive participation because your country, your national team is participating in Wikilove's Monuments, and you want to find new people that join you in uploading photographs of built heritage. Community engagement. art and feminism was mentioned. Wiki Loves Ramadan is also very highly community engagement focused campaign, and the global coordination. It's please review new guidelines. Please make sure that you vote in the elections for the Wikimedia Foundation Board of Trustees. So it's all those different kinds of attention grabs you want to do. Next slide, please. Yeah, facilitating notice sharing, yes. So with those in mind, all those possibilities for banners, you also need to be aware that we have 4 basics for banners. Because while we want to grab everyone's attention, we also want banners to be as unobtrusive as possible. So we preferably don't show banners for photograph competitions for people that work on Wikisource, for instance. It's when you speak about the second one, narrowly tailored as necessary, showing initiatives in other languages and everything. It's you try to be as focused as possible. They need to be consensus driven. So please make sure you have agreement from your community, from the communities you're targeting, to show those banners. And let's avoid constant use, because if there's always a banner in the top of your Wikipedia page, you will stop noticing those banners. You will stop noticing those important messages that others have for the local communities. Next slide. So who's involved in these central notice banners? Actually, everyone can request them. It's all Wikimedia users, it's the Wikimedia affiliates, and Wikimedia Foundation staff can request them and also uses them. The Central Notice Administrators is a group of community elected users who have the rights to set up and keep an overview of the campaigns. And who determines whether a banner meets the requirements? It's really with the central notice admins. So Martin, DerHexer and I, Ciell, we are central notice admins. And we base our decisions from the usage guidelines that I mentioned before, and maybe we can share them in chat as well. We use those guidelines to make our decisions. Additionally, also the Wikimedia Foundation determines whether banners on, for instance, fundraising and surveys go live. Okay, next slide. Before we go to DerHexer, who tell you more about the guidelines and policies, do you have any questions from this introduction? No questions? Then, oh, I see one question in the chat. What happens if consensus is not reached? Well, if there's no consensus, the banner does not go live. I think it's as easy as that. Martin, over to you.
Fantastic. So yeah, I'm the bad guy. I will tell you all the policies and guidelines that will make your life a bit harder. So we'll start with the next slide. We'll get into the consensus part, I think, later a little bit deeper. First, we look at the design and technical policies that govern our banners and the creation of the campaigns. So next slide, please. follow the rules. Yes, that's what we do. What are the usage guidelines? I'm giving you a link in the chat, but you can also read it on the slides, that these are the standards that were created by CentralNotice admins like Ciell and myself, other people who joined the calls together with Wikimedia Foundation. And our last update is from late 2024 with minor changes this year. And we hope this reflects best the way we currently react to banner requests or campaign requests, and reflect some kind of consensus among those who are right now actively setting up campaigns. Next slide, please. All right, now it's a bit formal what you have to do and what you have to keep in mind and such. So I will guide you through this, and this includes a couple of dates and numbers. So everything will be shared later also in the presentation, just in case you can't follow everything at the moment. So the most important thing is like we need time to set up the campaigns. We need time to communicate with you and your requests, and we need time to like evaluate the consensus, the existence of no complaints about the campaign. So like silent acceptance is also okay with us. There is no like official process for finding consensus. 14 days, that can be tough for global campaigns that we also get. So the earlier, the better. And for us, it's important to get aware of these requests as early as possible. We'll later dig deeper into that. In these 14 days, you can also keep in mind for the maximum time span for a banner campaign. As you know, or as you have seen, there are exceptions to that, like the Weekly of Monuments banners that run for a month, but we really want to keep it as short and focused as possible. So 2 weeks should be the maximum standard for that. Something that was already mentioned by Ciell was like, you need to be clear why you need that wide audience. CentralNotice banners reach millions of impressions at max when the campaign is set to also include non-logged in users, anonymous users, our readers. For that reason, fully global campaigns will likely not be approved. We need local people who support the campaigns. We need translations and such. You get deeper into that later on, but just for the first part. And with these 2 weeks in mind, these 14 days, you can also keep in mind that if you want to have changes to that, you will definitely need a visible approval from the community on your relevant OnWiki pages before submitting a request. Next slide, please. For setting up the design of the banners, we kindly ask you only to use text and images under free license. These images have to be uploaded to Commons. We can't include external material, even if it is under a free license. This is a technical limitation of our banners. We also kindly ask you to only link to Wikimedia Foundation or affiliate-controlled websites. Certainly, there can be exceptions to that, like a survey link. We'll get later into special campaign types, but that's more the general information we want to give you. We want to get people to our websites and get them involved on our websites. All right, now the I think most tricky part, like how do we get the banner? There is a standard banner that we can modify, but in general, we kindly ask you to bring your own banner, which means please make a design, make some suggestions for that, and either bring the entire banner code, which has to have some, or has to follow some requirements, which will be on some of the next slides. But this is on your end, more or less. We can give you a standard banner that we can modify with a link and text and such. But if you want to have significant changes to that, you have to do this. And most importantly, this is not wiki markup. It's all the banners are created only by HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. They're standard banners, Christoph. Yeah. All right. So next slide, please. Some more technical requirements that are needed for the banners, and for the standard banners, these are already respected. But if you want to make variations to that, altering the standard banner to a custom banner, you should always keep in mind all these listed items here. The banners have to be responsive and accessible on multiple devices. If you're asking for a banner to be shown to mobile devices, which makes sense because more than 50% of our traffic is coming from mobile, please also check your banner designs on mobile devices. We as CentralNotice admins do that in our limited way, but it's also your requirement to do that. Important is also that these banners have a close button, so that people can decide not to see the banner anymore until the next term of the banner, and the banner display will be asked for. We also ask you not to link big images, because every time the banner is shown, of course, this will also be loaded to the phones or our desktop PCs of our readers and those who receive the banner. We say around 250 kilobytes, it's all right. We can usually use a thumbnail from Wikimedia Commons for the standard banners, but if you want to design a banner yourself, don't use a 4 megabyte image. And this image, in case you use it, we really ask you to use a logo, an icon, a graphic, instead of like a photograph. I know you have seen banners where this is not the case, like the fantastic sliding banners for the Wikiloves competitions, but those are difficult to create, and we don't want to make it difficult for you to create the banner. So these are the recommendations from our end to do that. Avoid showing people. I think we have that on the next slide. To sum it up, we really want to have good quality banners that encourage people to click these, and ensure that these files work well with the banner layout, so that text and image together. All right, next slide, please. Yeah. Okay, so that's another list item. We don't have to accept custom banners, but I think most of the time we did that. they're not so well created banners. We'll later look into that. All right. The request process is something that my dear fellow Ciell will dig deeper into. So going back to you.
Yes, thank you. So we'll have time for Q&A afterwards, right? Don't worry, don't worry. A little bit more detail about the CentralNotice request process, because I don't think it's that difficult, but we see you sometimes struggle with it. So next slide, please. Important concepts. So some of the vocabulary you may come across. You hear Martin mention it, you hear me using these phrases, and I want to make sure that you understand what we are talking about. So when we speak about a campaign, we speak about the technical settings of a banner. The dates it runs, the countries it targets, the project it targets. The banner is the visual presentation you will see on your computer screen. So that those beautiful pictures with with the Commons photograph of the year, for instance, you know, those rolling banners, that's a banner. The combination of the campaign and the banner is what we call the central notice. The landing page is where the users go when they click the banner. And again, that has to be Wikimedia or affiliate owned. There's also some other lingo that you may come across in the documentation, and on the request page, it talks about a campaign diet. It talks about campaign metrics. They are of limited relevance to your request as a requestee. These are things that we as admins will use. They are the tools we have to make sure that when we have several central notices running at the same time, that that there's no conflict in the banners, or you don't see too many. That's a diet, and that's metrics for measuring the impact. Next slide. More vocabulary is the campaign description. It's what we ask for. Please describe to us what your campaign is intended to do, so we can evaluate and make sure that everything is optimized for your goal. The project target, Wikipedia, Commons, source data, which Wikimedia products do you want to target with the banner? And the languages, it's the same. We have, I think, if we have the ISO languages to select from, and I think it's over 400 languages that we can show in the banners already. And actually all media wiki languages are in there. So user target is it logged in, or is it also anonymous users? And country target. We used to have only countries, but nowadays we can also target, for instance, the different states within the USA. So we can tailor it a bit more narrow than we used to, but we cannot target just one capital city or whatever, you know. We still have limitations in the backend. Next slide, please. So central notice campaign requests, a step-by-step guide is what slide says. I'm actually going to do a live campaign request one. So let me share my screen with you. This one. So this is, as I mentioned, this is Meta. And this page, the central page, is called Central Notice. you'll have those 7 sections here that I mentioned before in the introduction: central notice, banner requests, campaign calendar, usage guidelines, frequent questions, admin interface, and interface documentation. Here are all the links that were in my slide previously, all additional links for help, for more information. I'm going to the banner request now.
Ciel, could you zoom in just a little bit to make sure the text is large enough for people to see?
Sure. Um, so again, these are the 9 steps, and we're going to do 2, 3, and 4 now. A campaign name. Your Drive hopefully has a great campaign name. I'm going, for the sake of this presentation today, I'm going to create one because I think that Wiki loves unicorns. It's a new photograph competition. You know, they are rare, but they are really out there, the unicorns. And there's already a page with that name. Sorry, try again. Roses. Roses are everywhere in the world. And that page is not used yet. I'm going to fill out this template. So the name of the name section will be pre-filled. Campaign description is something like a photograph competition about roses in the wild. I only want wild roses from, let's say, the 1st of May 2025 until, because it coincides with Wikilove's Earth, right? That's coming up in May again.
Yep.
The 30th of May 2025. Project target. So comments, because it's a photograph competition. And would species make sense? Yeah, and maybe also Wikipedia. Language target. English, my native language, Dutch. I want to involve the Germans as well because they're good photographers. I want to see, English is already in there. Yeah, so I'm going to keep it to that. User target is going to be logged in. I don't need newbies. Newbies, this photograph competition might be a bit too difficult for newbies, so I'm not going to include them. Country target, let's say Netherlands, Germany, and I want to specifically see all the beautiful roses that we'll have in Kenya. We'll see when we get there. So metrics, I don't really have them. It's volunteer initiative. We don't really need metrics. Banner choice, standard banner. Landing page link is a meta.wikimedia.org/wiki loves roses.
Dash wiki or wiki dash metawiki.org/wiki/.
Okay. Join us for, I want to have a text. Wiki loves roses. And I could also link a photograph of a beautiful rose that we have on comments. Of course, I don't have a grant because it's volunteer initiative. I don't have a grant link. So I'm going to publish the page. And this is what your page looks like now. Titania, by the way, is my sock puppet. She helps me with these kinds of requests and trainings. I can review the details I have. This is correct. This is 1-to-1-2. Cool. This looks good. I'm going to submit this one. My next step, actually step 3, now is the request. I need to add it to the list of requests on the request page. And then the third tab is the campaign calendar. So this campaign calendar, we try to sort it on the starting date of all the global campaigns. So my campaign will start 1st of May. So I'm going to scroll down and see if there are any other banners in the Netherlands, in Germany, or Kenya going live at the same moment, because if so, I'll need to coordinate with the other coordinators, with the other organizers of those banners to make sure that it's not on the admins to make the decision which banner goes live and how do you, I need to coordinate. It's my role. So Jugend editiert in Germany. And then there's, that's a fundraising one. One ref. That's okay. That's okay. We try to have a maximum of 2 banners live on one project. It's not always possible. And especially if community just agrees to have more banners, it's okay. So I'm going to add my Wiki Loves Roses banner. These are actually the templates you can use to fill out and to add to the calendar. So I'm going back to the 1st of May. I'm going to be polite. Next one in queue. So the starting date. The ending date. Languages. Logged in. We said NL, DE, Kenya. Kenya's KE, I think. And I am the coordinator. No. Okay, and then my last step would be, because going back to the banner request page, let's see here, and I need my link to the campaign, because this is the link I will use to go to my local communities and tell them, hey, guys, I have this great new thing I'm going to do. It's Wiki Love Roses. I'm going to share it with the Dutch the Kenya and the German communities and say, well, I hope you support this initiative. This is the campaign I thought about. This is the banner I'm proposing. If you oppose, please let me know. If you have any concerns, please let me know. Those comments that I will leave in Wikipedia de Kroeg for Dutch, in the Courier, I think it is, for Germany, and in the Village Pump for the Kenya community. I will leave the links there, and I will link to those discussion pages in my discussion. I will ask them to respond in the discussion section if they have any concerns. So that's the communication that you'll have with a central notice request. Let me see if I address everything I wanted to tell you. Yes, I did. Okay, that's great. Let's return to the slides. Alex, if you can take me, I think it's slide 32 that I need. Next. Yeah, so I did this, I published a page and I added it to both the request page and the calendar, and I checked for conflicts. I actually also already notified the local community. So next slide, please. And back to you, Martin.
Lovely. We now know how to submit our campaign, to write down what we want, where we want to see this the project or country, for example, and to have it added to the central notice request page and calendar and such. We now want you to get more focused on the banners themselves, and ask you also to think about some of our questions and write answers to the chat. So what made you click on a central notice banner? How often have you had the chance to see the banner before you clicked, or was it gone before you could even do this? Was it shown too often or too shortly? We also want you to write a bit down what actually made you click. Was a call to action useful? Were good words included that motivated you? And did you like how often you see the banner, or was it too often? Are you already banner blind? Banner blindness, something we as central notice admins obviously want to avoid. And obviously, after that, we'll give you some recommendations what to do and how to focus on. But thank you for sharing your input in the chat right now. We have a statement that people were interested in the topic and for that reason clicked the banner. Was it the text or logo is the question returned? We got some messages that people are not yet banner blind, which is a good thing. So a good focus is helpful here as well. A clear title that describes the action in a few words is a recommendation we can also see in the chat. Um, A good comment from Eleanor in the chat is that different colors, designs, and tags definitely make a difference. And for that reason, we had the long section on how to create your own banner. Because when we use the standard banner, it's usually the same white background, it's one image on the left, etc. Of course, we can change that a little to two logos and maybe a different color and background, but we are not the experts in designing a banner. We are not designers, we're like CentralNotice administrators. So if you really want to draw attention to something, it should come from your end. All right, what else do we have in the chat? Nice designs. Design is key. So we have a mix of design and text. Both things are important, and let's see how we can prepare a banner on the next slide. So for us, it's important that the banner will be available in all the languages that you're targeting. So when you're targeting the global audience, you should also make the banner available in 300 languages. That also gives you some kind of problem that because you probably don't have like translations ready for these many languages. We want you to focus on the projects and communities you really want to target where you have ambassadors and connections and such. It certainly helps, we have seen this in the chat as well, that you focus on the activity described. Do you want people to read something? Do you want people to click something? Do you want people to learn something? Make this very clear in the banner text itself. We ask you to make it as clearly as possible and to avoid misinterpretations. We also ask you not to make promises that could be monetary things like prices or any other things that could confuse people in what they actually are supposed to do. Instead, we want the banners to invite and activate potential participants to learn more about what you want to do. Going back to the languages, when you're planning to have the banner available in more than one language, of course, you're not all by yourself. There are people who help you with translations, the translators, but for that, you need to reach out to them on the channels you know, or through the channels that are linked here, for example. On MetaWiki, there's also a hub, the Babel hub, where you can ask for translations. Next slide, please. So banner campaigns are consist of mainly two things usually. It's a banner that makes you aware of something and the place where you're taken to, where that activity takes place. We call this landing page. And of course, we can't, as CentralNotice admin, set up campaign to a place that is not yet existing or it does not fulfill the minimum requirements for any such landing page. Which is why we wanted to also encourage you to prepare the landing pages well in advance before you request a banner campaign. Of course, this page could also need a bit of design to make people aware of what's going on, but we really want to encourage you to have good instructions at first. So like clear text there as well. So if your landing page expects, for example, participants to edit Wikimedia projects, don't guide them to a page where it's super complicated to start editing. Actions should be simple and repeatable when it comes to new editors in particular. We also want you to have a plan for evaluating the efficacy of the campaign, like the page views that were already mentioned in the chat. That's one option, how to see whether your campaign was successful. Of course, you can also look for example, a number of articles created or improved. You can use the dashboards that are out there, the outreach dashboard and other means of dashboards. But this is also something you should be preparing on your landing page. We, as CentralNotice admins, want to make users or the people who see the banners find the places where they can contribute. And this often requires not only the banners to be available in the languages that are targeted, but also the landing pages themselves. So in a good workflow, people are shown a banner in their native language, they are taken to a landing page in their native language, and are taken to the actions they are supposed to commit. There are exceptions to that when it's we can add translation links to the banners, and if you're targeting many languages, we usually ask you to provide at least translations to the main languages that your campaign is targeting. But this also needs time to get the page prepared for translation. You will need a translation administrator that helps you to mark the page for translation. You will also need to reach out to your people who translate the pages or through the MetaWiki label hub. Next slide, please. All these requirements are valid for all the campaigns we are talking about here. But we also have a couple of special campaigns or special users that we also want to focus on here in our training. With updating our usage guidelines, we also include a paragraph with a policy for Wikimedia affiliates and foundation staff, which reads as follows, that community campaigns are given priority for banner visibility and frequency. So if there is the case that it cannot be avoided that two campaigns are running at the same time, the same project or same country or language or whatsoever, usually CentralNotice admins will create the campaign diets, the amount of time the banner is shown, that way that community campaigns are given their priority. We also encourage affiliates and foundation staff not to run multiple campaigns at the same time, maybe with the exception of fundraising banners. So you should also look at, are you running for anonymous users, or do you want the campaigns to run for anonymous users or for logged-in users? If there is no overlap, it's good to have two campaigns at the same time, but if they're rivaling, that should not be the preferred way, also for affiliates and foundation staff. And last but not least, we as volunteer central notice admins receive a lot of requests, and we try to help everyone to get their campaigns set up and reach the communities they want to reach for the purposes that they have. However, we cannot do this for multiple requests per affiliate or for the foundation, which is why we're kindly asking those who run 2 banner campaigns per year to have a central notice admin on staff for organizing these campaigns. However, and that's an important part, why we're super happy that central notice admins from staff or affiliates set up the campaigns, check the banner source code, do all the tests, etc. We still kindly ask you to wait for the approval, to reach out to the volunteer admins and wait for their approval, because this is mandatory. All campaigns that are running, including foundation staff and affiliate campaigns, will get or will have to wait for the approval to be enabled that the campaign runs. But the more work that is organized by staff people, the better. Thanks. Yeah, next slide. Besides this, and I will not get very much into detail on these, you can later read about the special campaigns in the slides or on the MetaWiki pages, the fundraising campaigns and the survey campaigns. Next slide, please. For fundraising banners, there needs to be info to the Wikimedia Foundation, in this case, Julia Bruns, who has to approve the campaign on the Central Notice request page, so that we as volunteer Central Notice admins are certain that this is not just an idea of yours, but it's actually a contract between the foundation and you, how to do the fundraising and such, which includes like adhering to some principles and so on. Next slide, please. Similar process applies to the surveys. So whenever you want to create a survey and let it run through Central Notice, we kindly ask you to reach out to Tanya Andich first, who is the contact person at the Wikimedia Foundation, and she will probably tell you, do you really need a Central Notice campaign? There are other means of targeting the people you want to interview, you want to get feedback from. But of course, if a Central Notice campaign makes most sense, she also has to approve that publicly on the request page. As already mentioned, the banner links should link to Wikimedia server. There are only a few exceptions to that, which we can discuss in detail on the request page. Next slide, please. Fantastic. Yeah. Do you have any questions on that? Because after that, I will start sharing my screen with you and showing you some fancy banner campaign requests and ask you to spot some of the problems. But do you have any questions? I haven't had the chance to look into the chat while I was talking.
Yeah, so there's a couple families of questions in here. There's one about metrics, like what metrics are available and what we know, and I'm happy to kind of help answer that. if you guys need. And then there's another one about kind of yeah, why do so many of the banners look kind of quaint or old? And then there's like that kind of question, but also several like are the standard banners good for most requests? So if you can yeah um answer which one you want, either the metrics or the standard.
The questions are even related to we as CentralNotice admins don't know much about the metrics. We don't have access to the impressions right now, but we're trying to convince the foundation and to give us access to at least the number of impressions so that we know how many millions of impressions the banners have created. Certainly, there are some statistics, especially from Wikimedia Deutschland and the Wikimedia Foundation on the efficacy of banners, but not all of these are public. There's also a test done by Lodewijk, FAS Enders, for Wikileaks Monuments campaigns. So, like reflecting on the number of displays per iteration, how often a banner should be shown before it's automatically removed. Like showing banners 10 times in a row does not make any difference to showing banners 3 times in a row. So the percentage of people who click a banner after the 3rd time is really so low that we reduce the number of displays per week or per 3 days, for example. So there's a little knowledge, but there is a bit of knowledge on that with regard to metrics.
And I can actually expand on that a little bit more. So the reason why those metrics aren't public is it's in a like older data system that's used mostly for fundraising. And so it wasn't really designed to be shared widely. And so one of the things we have to figure out is, can we get the CentralNotice admins access to that data system and just on a regular basis? And I'm in part saying that because I have a couple of foundation colleagues in here. If you're interested in kind of helping see that through, that would be really great. The other but there is an opportunity to run more experiments like the one Lodovic did to set best standards so that not all campaigns need to see the metrics, but rather we have a body of evidence that's like, here's the best practice for X, Y, and Z. So like the other way we could do it is give a few community members or affiliate partners access to parts of the metrics and then run experiments. So this is a kind of a conversation that we need to have in the near term. And if some of the affiliates in the call or foundation staff in the call are interested in running such experiments, that's the kind of thing that, you know, it requires a bit of work, but is quite doable. And then on the design, do we want to talk about standard designs versus like why designs on banners are usually not very exciting?
It's also a feeling I have and an impression I share, but I can't give you numbers, whether that's actually true. So we just know that the workflow of a banner guiding people to a landing page, making them activate for something, works. Works for photo campaigns, works for editing campaigns, etc. So it's working, but we don't know if like changing the background color from the light gray, the standard banner, to green or orange even motivates more people, or like the banners that are fancier with the sliding photo deck, for example. I can tell you if that's really attracts more people. I do find them fancier and nicer, but that's my personal impression, and I don't have statistics for that. Of course, we're happy to implement fancier banners, but we're not the ones who designed them. We as CentralNotice admins check whether your proposals follow the guidelines, and especially as look for responsiveness, etc. Good.
Please,
With
please allow me to touch on the topic of Wikilove's monuments research. So I was involved from the sideline or observing from the sideline while the research was done, because I was on the Wikilove's monuments team at that time. And I think for your colleagues at the foundation, what is important to understand is Wikimedia Foundation since 2010 has done a lot of A/B testing, looking at click behavior, donations, what works. And what actually Lodewijk's research surfaced is that the behavior of members of the community that click on those banners announcing community events, announcing, calling for participation with Wikilove's monuments, they click differently. Their clicking behavior is differently. They maybe want to see, they want to see the banner return tomorrow because I don't have time today. I want to see it tomorrow, but I do want to sign up. If you go through the pipeline of Wikilove's monuments, you see the banner, Wikilove's monuments, and you think like, oh, I want to do that. You look up somewhere in your neighborhood, you go outside. Then when you get back home, you need a second view of that banner again to find the landing page link. So we know, at least on a higher level, that the interaction with the banners is differently for community engagement than from donor engagement. And I think that is something that is the kind of research that could really help us, because currently sometimes it just means for me, when I want to know if a banner is effective, I go to the category on comments to see, okay, this banner has been live for a month and they now received 10 uploads in this country. Maybe the banner is not that effective. Maybe I should turn it off. But that's actually all the information I have on banner effectiveness as a CentralNotice admin.
there it has also for the donor banners. I know that Wikimedia Deutschland also tried out solutions like in Formulator, like reducing the size of the banner, just leaving a very short banner part, like return to the activity later. But there's not much information published on that. All right, so next part will be me sharing my screen with you and showing you some banner campaigns, campaign requests, as well as banners, and asking you for spotting the problems. Seeing my screen now, at least it says so. And first thing I want to show you is this request. Just for clarification, all the requests in the end were approved and we could solve all the problems. So it's not blaming anyone here in this call. It's just giving you an idea of what kind of problems we get when we receive banner requests, and ask you to make it slightly different. All right. So we got this request here. We can also give that to the chat if that's still possible. There it is, the chat. It's a link in case you can't see it so well. So what can you see here? Try to monitor the chat as well. I'll also open the banner for you. Do we have some ideas what could be problem with this campaign here? Please write to the chat. Thank you, Manfred. Indeed, projects, Wikipedia and Commons, etc. is not very clear to us. Will there be more projects? Have they all been informed? Which else are targeted? Yeah, it might also be the case that why is Commons even needed? So for me, it's also, and all French-speaking countries in Africa, it's like, okay, I'm from Germany, I don't speak much French. It's like looking for all the countries that speak French, only those where they are first languages or official languages, also where they are minority languages, etc. So it's really not clear to me where this should be set up. But as I said, we could clarify this, but if you requested correctly right from the start, of course, we are a little bit happier. But there's some description. There are a lot of things that are good. We started easy here. Any thoughts on the banner? What could be problematic here? If you don't speak French, of course, you might not be able to understand whether that's a good call for action or not. But there are also design things that we could mention here. Yeah, so the 15th to 31st March is like, we still treat this as 2 weeks. It's all right. We're not so problematic. Yes, and Manfred, thank you. There is no close button. Indeed. And also, like, considering it's not actual people there, so we kindly ask you not to submit banners with people there. It's a logo, it should still be okay. If when I look at the code, it's wiki markup and not HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which is another problem. So in the end, we had to rebuild the banner. I can show you the final page, CentralNotice request page here. Got a lot of comments on that, and in the end, we found solution for all of this. I can show you the banner here and the preview. Maybe preview is sufficient. So actually look pretty similar to what was requested. We have a close button. We have the text state as is. We also have the logo is organized a little bit differently. And when we look at the campaign, there's also a campaign link here. The countries were limited to a few, not all the French-speaking countries here. In Africa, for example. All right, so second example. Listen to the chat. Sorry, I can't read all the messages in the chat at the same time.
It was a great conversation about what you were showing. I also want to note we have about 12 minutes left.
Yeah,
so
that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we want, some of us I think can stay over for Q&A right
Yeah.
at the end. So
Sure.
it's not a hard stop for the whole presentation team, but just letting everyone know.
So second one, Wikilas Ramadan, which is still running, I think. I'm not really sure. I might give you some hints on that. Requested on 14th of February, starting 25th of February. That's not 14 days in advance. Not good. Targeting all Wikimedia projects. Have they all been notified about this? Multiple language probably means all languages, global countries. We don't have local ambassadors. It's running for more than 2 weeks. Yes, indeed, Sarah. Really not so easy. When we go a bit further, we see the banners should only consist of a logo, not any kind of text, no activity given to that. And the landing page at that time was not translated into any other languages. So it's like there was a lot of work to do within a very short time frame, because starting just 11 days later, that's not easy. So we also got that accomplished thanks to the work of 2 CentralNotice admins. And it required a lot of time. It took a lot of time from Ciell and myself to get this ready. And at some points, each of us was like, I can't handle this anymore. Can you please take over? But we got it accomplished, not for all the languages, for limited languages, for the languages that had translations available and ambassadors. And we really hope that the organizers have learned a lot from this campaign, so that for next year it will be easier. If they had requested it a month before, everything would have been easier and could have been solved in a much better way.
I think actually both of the requesters of both the example requests you're now showing us are with us in this call.
That's
So
fine.
I am completely sure that next time they will know. And you know, we are, as far as I'm concerned, we're always happy to work with communities and to make sure, because sometimes it is difficult to make sure that it aligns with what you want to do. We're happy to work with you, but we sometimes need time, and we sometimes need more information than you give to us. And the more specific you are, the better I can look at all the different options we have in our palettes. Yeah.
That's true. So our goal is to get you to the place where we can set up a campaign and get it run. So our goal is to make people aware of your activities. I think I just declined a campaign once in my activities, which was very recently, and had more or less most of the problems we also see here in this campaign that I'm giving to you. Like, the entire template was not filled out, which was my first comment. That was actually the proposal for the banner. It looks nice, but it's absolutely not compliant with the banner guidelines, like moving images, text, etc. It's not like scalable. It's not. Yeah, so it's good. So this, we got some feedback on that, and they responded very quickly. I was happy that they took. I was afraid that this might end up in like a first decline, and yeah. So the second version was much better. Still looks pretty long. Time span for more than a month here. Some unclear text like banner can be showed, but to whom was still the answer. And one of my favorites is like, what countries will your campaign target? All African countries. That's fine. And then I'm going to English Wikipedia, to the list of African countries, and I'm clicking 55 countries because we don't have an option like to check an entire continent. And I still have the work to find out what all the 55 countries in Africa are and how they're named in CentralNotice, because it's not called Ivory Coast there, but Côte d'Ivoire, etc. So the next proposal was still a still image that they were using, not a text, etc. So, and we could convince them in the end to use our standard banner, slightly altered, and ended up the banner like this. 2 logos, which is still doable for us. Clear text, clear call to action, and yeah, that's the final version we could work out with them. And I'll stop sharing my screen now, and I'm complete.
Yay. Yeah, and the goal of the guidelines is not to stop you from doing banners, but is to make the conversation between you and the central notice admins like their lives better, and your lives better, right? To make your requests more likely to succeed with less worry, with less back and forth, without a lot of confusing language going back and forth between you. And so that was kind of the goal of the training. We've landed at the Q&A moment. And I know some people might have to leave. So I'm going to do some closing remarks and then we'll go to questions and answers. Does that sound great? Yeah, so this has been like a 8-9 month project that Sheila has been driving, and I'm just very proud of the work that's happened. We have very clear guidelines. Martin finally said no to a banner once, which is like very exciting for me because the guidelines actually allowed him to do that. Whereas before, when we were talking to folks, some of the central notice admins were like, "We're not sure when we can say no, like we don't know why or how," right? And that not knowing how to say no is actually really important for clarity and conversation, right? So you can actually work together better. And so I'm really excited by that. Sheila's going to be doing another project in the next couple of months where we're going to train some more central notice admins. If you are interested, we need to know, because we really want to make sure there's more global coverage of admins. This is one of the challenges that the central notice admin team has. That most of them are based in Europe. They don't speak the whole range of international languages needed to collaborate in the movement, right? Like we don't have a Swahili speaking admin. I'm not sure if we have a Spanish or Portuguese language admin. There's not much support for Arabic. So like we have these like really big gaps in languages that are really important for the movement. And we also have kind of geographic knowledge. So it's easier to evaluate consensus. So we need more admins. If you think you're a good candidate for admin, please send us an email, reach out to me or Sheila in social media or Telegram, or let me know here in the meeting chat. And we'll put you into the queue. We're still working with the admins on the criteria for who's going to join that training, but our goal is to have 15 to 20 folks that can work better in multiple languages, multiple geographies, many requests. So it's not just Martin and Ciell handling the most complicated ones. And so that's the hope. But do we have any more questions? I want to open up the room to any questions folks want to look at.
I think there's one very interesting one by Manfred in the chat. If I already know now, I'll be requesting a campaign for something I'm organizing in 8 months. What's the best thing to do? And yes, please already.
Sorry, it was meant for in 8 weeks. It was a
Yeah,
typo, but okay, even better.
It's my answer does not change. If you already know you want to request one, it's a coordination calendar. So please put your your upcoming request in that calendar. So others know that if they also want to organize something in the same time period for the same projects, they need to reach out to you, because the two of you need to coordinate. Like, for instance, Wiki Lost Monuments, no, International Women's Month is at the same time as Wiki Lost Africa. As international team member for Wiki Lost Monuments, I will coordinate with the Wiki Lost Africa coordination team to make sure that our campaigns don't bite. So either they push back their campaign 3 or 4 days, and we discuss this amongst each other, and that's okay for all. And that's actually the very intention of the campaign calendar. Just make sure if your event is canceled, take it out of the calendar.
Thank you. Mhm.
There was also a great question about can we make the banners without the code somewhere? Yes. There is a prototype tool that allows you to configure a banner within a what you see is what you get environment. So you can like fill out a form and you can see what the code, and it creates like a code block that you can use for the thing. It's not very robust tool. It was built like 7, 8 years ago, and the admins didn't know about it till Wikimania last year. So it existed, but it wasn't used. And we have an outreachy intern who will be rebuilding it to be kind of up to date to the best practices we know about for banners. And the next, I think the project is due by July. We're fairly confident it'll go well. This is an intern who's being mentored by community by staff at the foundation. So the thing might not be ready or complete by the end of July, but at least we'll be in a 90% state that if someone else who's like at a hackathon or something wants to add tweaks or improvements, that'll be there. So our hope is to have like a little CentralNotice banner configuration tool that allows you to design your own, pick your colors, see your fonts, like see how the image looks next to the text, and then we'll have banner code that's complete for the admins, which is not what happens at the moment. That being said, it's not going to cover most of the best designs for stuff. Like if you want to do something more complicated, you'll probably need a HTML and CSS type visual designer. Did you want to add anything else about that, DerHexer or Ciell?
Any other questions? We had one in the chat, like where the calendar and the request page, and I just add the information that we as CentralNotice admins usually work on the request page, because that's a place where you are supposed to link your request pages, and they are also sorted and into a table, which is sortable, I think, and helps us to keep an overview of the upcoming campaigns. The calendar also helps you to find campaigns that could take place at the same time on the same project, so that you can start conversation with the other project organizers, because we are individual CentralNotice admins. We try to keep an overview of all the campaigns, but keeping all the possibilities in mind where overlaps could happen is not easy, and we don't want to have situations again like the ones Ciell mentioned, when we had like Women Month, Wiki Lost Africa, Wiki Lost Ramadan, and Wikimania program submissions at the same time, and like who's getting which week at what percentage, and like can you start a day after Women's Day so that we don't get too much overlap, etc. So yeah. Requesting early conversation, being available for feedback and pings. That's one of the keys for success to good setup for your campaign.
Well, and what I can share is actually for because I think Johnny is with us in the chat or in the room, or it was for the coordination for Wikiloss Ramadan. It was the first time Wikiloss Ramadan requested a campaign, central notice campaign, and they didn't give that much information about the campaign in the request, but what actually helped me was the link to the grant request, because they had a grant request with the Wikimedia Foundation. That actually helped me understand, okay, what are you doing? And the opposed to the central notice request, the grant request mentioned only 4 projects. So that simplified, because that made it just a little bit easier for me to coordinate it next to Wikiloss Africa and next to International Women's Month. So the more information you can give me, the easy it's easier to map out in my head what's the best way to set up these campaigns. Do I want individual campaigns? Do I want global campaigns? Because that's very different. Even between all the Wikiloss competitions, they use different setups, different styles of targeting, and there's not that much documentation as we would like about that. I think the different teams are working on it, but yeah, it takes a lot of figuring out and puzzling the right way to go. Yeah. Okay, maybe if there are no more questions, because I think everyone's saying goodbye in chat, right?
Yeah, thank you for the kind feedback. Please reach out to us on the Central Notice request pages or on the talk page of Central Notice. Whenever you have questions, concerns, we have an internal mailing list where we talk with each other, and we also have good connections to the foundation to discuss things. I think we can also start the recording then, and we will want to say something.